saying 1 minute?
1 minute.
Okay, now. No, sir.
This special meeting of the Judson Board of Trustees is here called to order at 5 p.m. Thank you for taking time to join us this evening. In compliance with state government code and on open meetings, tonight's agenda has been appropriately posted. We have established a quorum, and I will call roll call. Ms. Rodriguez?
We have buttons.
Let's do the buttons. That's always fun, too. Yeah, I appreciate the reminder there.
You gotta click something.
Yeah, go right ahead. And for the record, Ms. Eaton is out, but the rest of the board is here. And next to me is Dr. Fields.
Yes, sir. Good evening. How are you?
So we have an established quorum, and there are no public address. So we'll go right into a program review, but I did want to note that we do have legal counsel here. We have 2 items that we need discussing for closed session, so let me read those, and then we can go ahead and go into closed session before we start our program review. So the board will now will convene into closed session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Pursuant to Texas Government Code 551074, discussion regarding board member duties, roles, and responsibilities, and pursuant to Texas Government Code 551071, attorney consultation regarding legal issues related to employment of certain administrators and professional employees in pay grades AP 501 through AP 511. The time is now 5:03, and we will go into closed session. The board will now reconvene in open session. The time is now 6:28 PM. No final decision or vote was taken while the board was in closed session. We will move on out of order to discuss a couple of action items. So 4A, discussion and possible action regarding the naming of middle school number 6 and elementary number 21. Dr. Fields?
Yes, sir. Typically, it's about that time we're coming up on needing to come up with a name for the middle school. There's several ways that we can get this done. We could name it after the local municipality, Woodlake Elementary, Woodlake Hills Middle School, Park Village. Or we could put out in the district for people to submit names to the board and then have them come in and make those presentations to the board, and we could name the middle school that way. Or we could submit a name for the board to see if we could move forward. It will be on Walden Street. It is in Wortham Oaks. Our recommendation would, oh, thank you so much.
I just happened to see Russell.
Can I use yours until can you hear me now? So, there's several different ways that we could go about naming the new school. We could do it after the local municipality. We could do it after the neighborhood. We've done it with Park Village, Wortham Oaks, Copperfield, Rolling Meadows. And this will be in Wortham Oaks on Walden Street. And we are recommending Walden Middle School for now and just move forward that way, rather than go through the process of having people solicit names and going through that process. We think it's appropriate for the area, Walden Middle School. If the board could determine that they wanted to move forward in that way, then we could just go ahead and start with the naming, and they could come in and start, doing the labels for the school. I'd stand ready for any,
Is that the same for the elementary school?
apparently, there's some feedback that wants, that the elementary school we haven't gotten to yet. Oh, it is? Yeah, we could go with Retama Elementary as well, if we wanted to move forward with that as well. Or,
No, right now, Ms. Faulkner would like to say a few words, so Stephanie?
I would just like to say, after attending so many things at Karen Wagner High School, it is, not only is it nice for the community, but it's very positive publicity for our district to keep remembering and keep hosting. So my vote obviously would be for an outstanding person in the community. So.
Ms. Ryan?
Oh, I'm definitely not comfortable making a decision at this point. This is one of those things where we need our community's input, whether that's the students in our district, our teachers and staff, our mayor, our parents. I think we need to go out and solicit everybody's input. It may end up being those two things, but we deserve to at least listen if there is someone noteworthy, or there's a different location, or, the mayors have ideas or anything like that. We at least owe it to them to get their input and try and narrow that down and before we make a decision, because we always value our community's input.
understood?
Ms. Canoyer?
Thank you. I'm glad you didn't come with Wortham Oaks Middle School, because I'm telling you, people get confused with Woodlake Elementary
Right.
and Woodlake Hills.
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
just too much. We can't do that.
Yes, ma'am.
We have named high schools after distinguished people. We haven't done that. Well, no, that's not true. Metzger.
Metzger, but it's typically after,
Yeah.
a person who's,
I would, who's deceased.
yes, ma'am.
And we have lost former students in the line of duty.
Correct.
Which is where my heart always goes to. And I would recommend looking at that for the middle school. Elementary, I think if we do the neighborhood one, it's more familiar for parents. Where's your kid go? Retama? Oh, that must be over by Retama?
Yes, ma'am.
Kind of thing. So I would be okay with, when we get to that point, looking at that. But for the middle school, I would like us to honor a former student.
Understood.
A veteran, right?
It doesn't have to be a veteran. They're just saying we,
No, I was just asking her.
Oh,
It could be a veteran, but it could also be somebody who's gone on to do amazing things and be a true example for our students to look up to.
Ms. Ryan?
I like it's funny how that feeder pattern will be, Kitty Hawk and Veterans Memorial. So something, military-ish related seems to kind of feed that a little bit too. So, and then Retama's hard because it's not in an actual neighborhood. It's not in the neighborhood itself, but it's in the city of Selma, and Selma's such a small city too, type thing. So I think there's a lot of. It could be Selma Elementary. There could be people who think that's great, but that's why I think input. Yeah, because I think Tom would love that for sure. So yeah, that's why I'm worried about doing anything without, because I think there's a lot. The collective wisdom of the crowd is bigger than this room.
Anyone else? I do have a comment, but I'd like to hear from everyone before I comment. Yeah, go right ahead, Ms. Eaton.
Okay, since the button's not working, is it on? Mic check. Hello? I like Ms. Canoya's idea, because my heart near and dear. We got a board full of veterans and school teachers, so I really would like to look into that. Well, not just veteran, but as you said, it doesn't have to be a veteran. It can be a former student that's gone on to do something awesome representing our district for the middle school. And I agree that, the elementary school should be named after the community that it's in. That's easier too for the little guys, pre-K 3. You ask them, who is so-and-so, huh? So it would be easier for them. I think that would be fun. That's all I have.
Ms. Stanford, did you want to add anything to the conversation? And of course, Ms. Rodriguez.
I have a slightly different opinion. I think that when it can be a very slippery slope when we name after people. And as we have seen in this district.
I will allude
So
to that.
I lean more towards having a naming convention, which it sounds like the naming convention we've been using for, at least recently, has been naming it after the neighborhood or the street that it is on. So that would be my preference. But I also understand, I'm not against investigating other things, but I think that what could also end up happening is that there are multiple great suggestions for names after people that nobody can agree on. And I mean, that people are politicking for, things like that. And then we give ourselves the opportunity to go back to saying a geographic location. That's just my 2 cents, but.
Well, thank you. Being the only board member that had the controversy about names when I was on the board, I'm quite sensitive. I know there were people in the room that were here, but the bottom line is the name is to unify a community. We actually did put in our board operating procedures our local policy that we do name schools within the geographical area after neighborhoods because we wanted really a much more peaceful way of identifying and recognizing the campus. But I will tell you the name Veterans Memorial was one of those only other names that would unify the board behind something. And honoring our military is always something near and dear to me, that we would continue to remember those that have sacrificed their life for our country, but who are from Judson. And I'm going to tell you, as Ms. Rodriguez stated, the slippery slope is there's a lot of folks during the time that have done that. So how do you best recognize? It may be very tricky, and then the politics play into it. And does it really need to be out there? So if the person is a military veteran, maybe they lived in the area right where we're going to have the school, perhaps. But I would say, with caution, let's make it a real easy process. So let's look at the names in the neighborhood. And if there is someone that really rises to the top, like no one was going to say no to Lieutenant Colonel Karen Wagner. That was the appropriate name for that school at that time. And so I'm a little open, but just a little cautious. And I like the term Ms. Rodriguez said, slippery slope. It really could get negative, and I don't want that for our community.
I'd like to say, according to board policy, we can move forward with naming it after the area, or we can solicit names, or the board can decide which name we're going to name it. If we're going to say we're going to solicit names, there's a board policy that we'll follow. We can't put stipulations like only a veteran or only, it'll be whatever people submit. Do we need to do that for the elementary as well as the middle school, or can we move forward? The reason why we're bringing this is because we have to step forward with the naming of the campuses, and they have to start creating the documents and creating the signs for out front. If you're saying that you want to do the same for both, then we'll start to post that on, but understand that every time we have a special meeting, this will be on the agenda because we'll want to get it through as quickly as possible, so we don't slow down the process with the naming, if that's okay.
I'm open to getting more feedback on that from you, Dr. Fields.
Understood?
But, all right. Now, do we need to take action, or did you just have this as a discussion?
No action
It's an
necessary.
action item, I thought I saw. Yeah, discuss and take possible action, but no action. Okay, letter B, discuss and take possible action regarding approval of updating the 2023-2024 instructional calendar.
This is simply when Super Tuesday comes in November and we're doing the presidential election, school will be out that day. We're doing a primary that's coming up in March on the 5th, and the voting agencies have asked us to use our facilities to allow people to come in and vote. And we've opened ourselves up as we typically do around vote days. But in this particular case, we have enough minutes. We don't anticipate needing to have a weather-related day prior to the end of the year. And we would ask that we would be able to make March 5th a student holiday, still have the staff come in, but the students would not have to come in on that day while the community's coming in to vote. Does that make sense?
What would the staff be doing? Would they have free
PD, professional development.
professional development, no personal time in their
They
classroom?
can have personal time in their classrooms. It's not like we had built-in PD for that day, so we can just give them more personal time in the classroom.
Ms. Ryan?
This is a little frustrating to see this because the date you're talking about is 7 days from now.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
have working parents who work 9 to 5 jobs, who it is past the time when they can request to be off if you're working a normal job. So to dump on our families 1 week out, we knew when primary election day was, and we know our schools are always used for elections, and we have accommodated them in the past often. We've taken the Tuesday in November off, but we have not always taken every other election day off. So to inconvenience our parents 1 week out notice, this is not fair to our working families. Also very concerned about the May one. I don't know if y'all realize that.
Yes, there's
He's
another
got
one
another
coming
one
up
he's
in
taking
May.
off he wants to take off in May, which has us coming back after Memorial Day weekend, having the Monday off, the Tuesday off, and have the kids come back for a half day just on Wednesday.
I didn't
You might
remember
as well call that
articulating
no
that I wanted to
attendance day.
take that day off.
There's nobody coming in on a.
Is it?
Yeah, you've got just, the only day of school that week is a half day on a Wednesday. That's just an automatic, at least if it was a day and a half, we at least had a chance of people coming in for ADA. But if that's now, if the only day they're coming back, we are not going to see any of our students ever again. So that would not be a good attendance issue. I mean, and our teachers have also planned off of this too. So there are curriculum instruction guides based off this. There's testing going on and all these other things that to kind of mess with our staff this late into the year. If we want to plan for that in next year's calendar, I think that'd be fine. But we're going to have issues if we leave all the kids home next Tuesday.
Well, and I would just add, I think we just recently had a groundbreaking for fencing and gates. Security means a lot to our families. And right now, if we're going to have open campuses with a lot of people coming, I think to realize this might be a safety concern. So I would temper that a little bit. There might be some that understand the need for us to possibly do this. Ms. Faulkner, you have the floor.
I just would like to hear, and I know y'all play both sides, what is the contingency plan if the board was to say no?
What we typically do, we ask them to set up the entrance points and egress points at the front of the school to where they don't go back deep into the school. They keep it superficial. That's what we've done in the past. But in an election year, and we had the minutes available, we felt like And in this current environment, we felt like if we have the minutes available to allow the students not to be there, why not take advantage of that? If the board's saying that they would rather the kids be in school at that time, then we will make the same arrangements we've made in the past.
And just refresh my memory, I think we are, but are we up to one police officer on every campus? Not
We're
yet?
moving towards that, but we're not there yet.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
If we decide not to move forward with calling the day as a holiday, could we look at reassigning? to
Definitely.
Make sure that we
Yes,
have a
ma'am.
police officer who can monitor that area?
Definitely.
I know we have enough now. I think that could be done just for that day.
We could do that.
We don't always know in advance that they're going to want to use our schools, and we do not have a choice. We cannot say no legally. So, I mean, that's not an option that we have. When things got weird in 2020, I spoke up and said we need to have that day off. There was going to be a huge turnout. And with all the stuff going on, we needed to be sure that our students weren't there. And I think moving forward, we should look at our calendar, and any day that's an election day should be off. Number one, some of our students can go and vote. That gives them the opportunity to do
Correct.
that. Our teachers can go and vote on election
Correct.
day. They could leave if it's a prep day for them to go and vote. So that encourages civic involvement, and so I'm for that. A week is kind of short notice, and I don't know how we get around that.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Stanford?
Yeah, could we make it be ongoing from not this coming voting day? Because that is awfully short, and people might not have the ability, as Ms. Ryan said, to take the time off. But to take that action going forward?
We've already done that for November. When the presidential election comes, we'll be off that day. It's already in the calendar.
And March 5th from now on, too?
I'm
whatever
not
the-
confident it'll be that day. It's this year,
Whatever the
it's
day
that
is.
way this year because of the primaries, correct? It's not always
Right.
around this time. But is it,
Yeah.
Yeah, every 2 years.
right?
So we could make it a policy for primaries that we take?
We could, yes, ma'am.
Even.
Okay, that's what I would recommend, not this coming March 5th,
Understood.
but other than that, yeah.
Ms. Faulkner?
So now I want to go back to the other elephant in the room, having the one day off after and then coming back for half a day.
Well, if we aren't moving forward with March 5th, I doubt we'd move forward with the
Okay, that's what I was making clear. That's what I was making clear, to get clarification that if, it would be the same for both days. Okay.
That's the one-off.
Right. We will be fine either way. We were just trying to do this because we had the minutes available. We were trying to be accommodating. If you feel like that's not enough time for the parents, then we'll move forward and the kids will be in school on March 5th.
I think that's consensus. Do you want me to, do you have something to say, Ms. Eaton?
That's all.
Okay, so that's March 5th. So, but for May, because that's potentially runoff, because we don't know, but, and I'm pretty sure it will be, but it won't be as many on the ballot. So, yeah, a lot fewer people, so that should be okay for the kids to be there.
Well, I would agree. The November 2020 election was a lot of folks, and the March primaries and the May are a little less. I definitely respect the idea of safety, because again, we will have folks on campus, but it will be a smaller group, and I do think if we plan this out better, I think everyone would be happy. So I know it's a recommendation, and appreciate you bringing that forward.
Understood.
I'm going to go ahead and pull this, so we don't have to vote on this
No
item.
vote.
And then we'll start what we came here to do, program review. So again, we're going to,
Start off with.
We're going to have our program review, but I have a commitment to stop our meeting at 8 o'clock today. So we'll have a good hour and 10 minutes or so to talk about program review, but we will have another one scheduled in March, and we will obviously look at having a third if needed. So it just depends on how much information we need and how quickly we go through the program review, but let's go ahead and get started. And so now we're on program review. I'd like to start off with letter D, advanced academics. Dr. Fields?
Yes, sir. So we've asked all of all of the departments that you see listed here this evening to come in. We'll start off with advanced academics, and that will be Devin, and then we'll move on through with transportation and so on. So, Mr. Holmes?
Hi, good evening, board, cabinet members, and other directors and stuff who are here. We're going to be talking about CCMR, Advanced Academics. The reason we mention both words is because my title is the director of CCMR, but a lot of my duties fall under what you would normally call Advanced Academics. And so what we deal with is our college, career, and military readiness accountability, gifted and talented, elementary academic enrichment, academic competitions, dual credit, honors, advanced placement, SAT, PSAT, ACT, college and career readiness school models like PTEC, T-STEM, and JECA, and other duties as assigned. So as far as strategies go this year, our number one strategy deals with the board goal, which is to increase CCMR. And so we are wanting to see the number of students meeting ELAR and math TSI criteria to increase from 14% at the beginning of the year to 39% at the end of the year. Funding related to that mostly deals with testing. We have SAT, PSAT, TSI, and ACT testing, and as well as college prep opportunities. And then there was a small amount of money we spent from Title to purchase support for SAT and ACT. Second key strategy is to increase the equity and quality of GT services in Judson ISD and provide opportunities for elementary students to engage in STEM-based learning and the engineering design process. One of the ongoing challenges of gifted and talented in particular is that it's very difficult to get the demographics of your GT population to mirror the demographics of the district, and it's a challenge across the entire nation. And so that's something that we're continuing to work on, and it is a key strategy of ours. And because I wanted to mention also in this strategy the opportunity for all kids in elementary to engage in STEM-based learning activities, the engineering design process through our academic enrichment teachers who split their time between servicing GT students and providing all students with their some really awesome enrichment opportunities. So funds here, put the salaries, estimated salaries for the year, the GT identification software, learning materials and things like that coming out of local. For ESSER, we have $1,270,322 budgeted for academic enrichment teacher salaries, more or less. For Title, we had $41,000 that we spent for honors PD and curriculum coaching, and that is to develop our middle school and high school honors program, the curriculum there. And then we also had $76,000 spent for academic enrichment materials such as SAM Labs, which is a really cool way of blending computer programming and robotics and electronics, and we use it in our upper grade levels. And we also have Strawbees. We bought makerspace materials for the campuses to make sure they're all equipped to be able to work with those kids. Third strategy is to improve the quality of the student education through opportunities for enrichment and extension of learning through STEM opportunities, advanced competitions, advanced placement, dual credit, and our college and career readiness school models. So one of the things that Advanced Academics tries to do is provide advanced academics opportunities. Opportunities for kids to go above and beyond what they would normally receive. And so in this area, we have $844,250 budgeted. That's for AP testing, dual credit tuition, instructional materials, STEM supplies, and professional development. And then we also had $12,000 that we used for professional development for math engagement. So those are our three key strategies that we wanted to talk about. Results to date, the district is at 32% for the number of seniors meeting ELAR in math as of the 21st of this month. So we're moving right along. If you'll remember, we were going from 14%. We want to get up to 39% at the end of the year. So that is looking very positive. We currently have this year 1,298 GT referrals versus 865 last year. That's a big jump. I think we just publicized it more, and we're using a new program called Project GT, and I think people become more familiar with that. We're writing a new honors curriculum in partnership with coaching with the National Math and Science Initiative that will align our courses to the rigor of advanced academic opportunities, and students are being exposed to robotics, coding, and engineering design process at elementary. So number 3, student application. We just had in fact, today was the last day for people to respond to the applications for our CCRSM programs. We created a common application hoping to increase visibility of certain programs that sometimes get overlooked, honestly, because JECA, people think they know JECA, they know that really well, but one of the things we wanted to do by creating a common application was to increase the number of kids enrolling in T-STEM. And that's exactly what happened. So we're really excited about that, through that. I put Veterans Memorial High School's Texas Academic Decathlon team is going to state this weekend. That was when I wrote this last week. So they actually went to state, and they did very well. They had students placing and medaling in just about every event. I want to say they got 5th or 6th overall. That's just when I come to memory, but it's exciting that our academic competitions are really moving forward. We've also had, we just had our academic UIL competition for elementary and for middle school, our district competitions there as well. Requests for support, what I would like to request for next year, the state has purchased and paid for a program called Texas College Bridge, which allows students to get a TSI exemption. They paid for that since 2021. But they will no longer be paying for it, and they're going to charge us for that. So we'll need $40,000. I have spoken to Title, and we could probably get that money out of Title IV, support that with our CCMR. And then you can see my revised budgets, our revised budgets for the past 3 years, down there at the bottom. So should I pause for questions at this point?
Yes, sir.
And you may be the only one with a question, Ms. Wright.
No, there'll be more questions. Ms. Stafford, did you want to go?
Sorry. You are so good at the mics. When you said that we had an increase in GT referrals, that's a nice increase from 865 to 1298. Is that more kids are qualifying? We haven't changed the standards any.
No, it doesn't mean necessarily that more kids are qualifying. It means more kids are going to be tested. So we're in the process of testing and identifying at this point, but getting the numbers up increases the potential of finding those kids that maybe aren't as obvious to refer. And so part of it was just getting the word out, getting more people aware of what it was that we're trying to do, and moving forward there. So that is a very positive move. I can't tell you that it's changed the number of identified students yet, because that's still going on.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Rodriguez? And then Ms. Eaton, I'll call you next.
So my question is, I'm looking at this and I'm seeing down at the very bottom of the cover page, like, okay, here's the historical budget. And then just above that, it says $40,000 from categorical funding. Is that the only additional money? Like, so that would be, say, like the 1.3 million that's on here for 23-24, the increase would be, for this upcoming year, would be $40,000, or am I not understanding?
Not exactly. So the budget that you see at the bottom, that's actually the money that our department manages.
Right.
So title would not necessarily come out of our budget in any way. It's
Okay.
just, we're asking for that money, and we wanted to bring it to your, and we were trying to find a way to get that money available for our kids without having to increase the local budget.
Got it. And so I guess maybe more my question is the other dollar amounts that we're seeing in the previous strategies and things, those are things that are already folded into the existing budget, correct? That's not like an increase from previous years?
Correct.
or-
This is the money that has been budgeted for these various things
Yep.
this year. If it's the local one, for the most part, that's actually CCMR money through our budget. But there's also title and salaries. That doesn't come into our budget.
Right, yeah,
But
yeah.
so if you were to add up all these numbers, it's going to be more than the 1.3. But that's because it's including our,
The ESSER funds that are
right,
paying for those
exactly,
positions. and
exactly.
stuff. Yep, okay. No, I'm just trying to understand what's existing and what's new, and where are we having?
Correct, yeah, sorry about
Okay,
that.
no, that's fine. No, that's helpful. Thank you.
Ms. Eaton?
My question is, of those numbers of increase, could you go down a little bit? I recently had a concussion, which I'm still dealing with, so it's easier for me to see that screen. A little bit more?
Yes, ma'am.
No, right there. Of the difference in the numbers from 865 to 1298, of that difference, how many of those students came out of our current honors classes?
Most of those students would be coming out of elementary. Most of our referrals come in elementary, and we don't have honors per se in elementary. There are a few kids, I will say, I know for sure there were a few kids at Wagner High School coming out of honors classes and things like that that were referred for GT that we were able to look at and we're testing at this point. So, but most of those referrals, the lion's share, come out of elementary, which is generally the case because we try to capture them in elementary.
Right.
If we capture them in middle school and high school, what that is really saying is we probably missed them first time around. So.
Okay. Thank you.
I obviously appreciate your tenure. How long have you been doing this now?
This particular position, I believe 4 years.
4 years, yeah, that's pretty good. So thank you for working hard. My question is related just to a real quick answer in terms of, where we were in 2021 in terms of our overall expenditure versus the increase in 23, 24. Can you just give me sort of a summary of what that increase entails?
Yeah, so absolutely. So the increase in the budget was mainly projected expenses. My budget's kind of weird because I have to project what is the maximum expenditure in this particular area. But then when the money comes in and we actually have to spend it, it's generally less than that. So for example, I was projecting an increase in the amount of cost for our dual credit materials because we're going to have to go to Alamo Books, which is basically a subscription versus being able to buy the books and use them for 3 years. But then Alamo Colleges came back at the beginning of the year and said, you know what, we're going to cover Alamo Books this year. So that's money that's not spent. Another one that I budgeted for was AP textbooks. I was expecting to possibly have to buy a number of science AP textbooks. And so we budgeted for that. I requested the money, but we're going to be able to get that out of IMA because they have enough money for us to be able to do that. We don't always get to get our books out of IMA because we don't follow the same adoption schedule as they do. So that was another big expenditure that was there too. So I think,
Okay.
yeah, so, but if you were to actually look at the expenditures at the end of the year, my guess is it's probably going to be pretty similar because some of those anticipated costs ended up not happening.
Well, I know that the reason why we're going to be talking a little bit about advanced academics out of the gate was our commitment to Ms. Ryan to talk about GT. And GT was one of those things that we kind of passed on in the boardroom to have that more in-depth discussion today. But one of the essential points that was brought out of the meeting was class size. How many students to have in a classroom that would be GT. And in terms of right now, just for my understanding, we're combining GT students with students in general so that we can staff them in the best way possible? Would that be correct?
So the way that it works for middle school is we have these two different course codes. We have basically a GT course code that lets us know, hey, look, that's where we're going to cluster our GT kids. And then we have an honors course code. And so what we try to do is put all the GT kids in a class. But if there's space in that class, then we would be able to fill that with honors kids so that we would be able to staff that. But that's really the general way that's done. And if there are kids who, for whatever the reason, they decide they cannot be part of that clustered class, we would try to create another clustered class for them so that they could do that based on their schedules. And so the idea is that you want to group the GT students together so that they have the opportunity to work together. That's just part of the state plan that is required. They also should have the opportunity to work with other students. That's in the state plan as well, and working with those honor students would meet that requirement.
Okay, and just for my clarity, GT goes from what grade to what grade? I mean, I'm thinking all of them, but.
Gifted and talented goes from really first grade to 12th grade,
Okay.
but it starts in kinder. But, I can't really say it's all of kinder, because once we identify them at the end of the year, then we start servicing them, so.
And I guess my last question before I defer to Ms. Ryan, part of the reason we're having these discussions is to look for avenues for greater enrichment in academics for our community. And I've seen our JSTEM do some really good things. Obviously, JECA has done some really good things. I remember some time ago, I don't know if you were in that position yet, but I did propose that we add early college to our high schools, and that was going to cost too much. The cost for that just did not meet. And so we're doing a lot of dual college enrollment, I guess, that would help people still obtain some college. Does that fall anywhere in the GT world for you?
It does, because students who are GT, one of the things that we want to do, there's two main ways that you provide GT services. It's through enrichment or acceleration. You can kind of boil it down to those two things. And when you're taking a dual credit course, that is acceleration, because you're taking a college level course in high school. And so that would be a way that we could work with our GT students.
All right, well, thank you. Ms. Ryan?
Mr. Holmes knows I've been bugging him for about 6 years.
No worries.
So, all right, so yeah, there's been a lot of confusion about what we're doing at middle school next year. So I just want to make sure like everybody ends up kind of on the same page. So the goal is to kind of keep what we've always had.
You gotta have that.
Oh, on? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I don't like that. All right, there we go. I'm used to working with these. So the goal is to keep it kind of the way we have had it, which is for the master schedulers, because obviously the curriculum people are on one person, and then people who actually do schedules are a different department, is trying to keep those GT kids as close together in the same group as possible, right?
That is correct.
Okay, because I think there was some confusing guidance, pre-K kindergarten game, like Metzger's got like 24 GT and 24 honors, and they all mixed up together.
Right.
Instead of putting all 24 GT kids together and all 24 honors together, they all ended up intermixed. And that's, we have computers who schedule that stuff,
Right,
right?
right.
And so we can fix most of that
Right.
with a good scheduling system.
Right.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that, like, the
And-
middle school people here.
And I will say that we just had a master schedule meeting the other
Okay.
day, and Dr. Fields was there, and he explained very clearly that the intention is that we are going to put all our GT kids in one section, and then if there's space left over, we'll fill it up with honors. And then if there are students who have decided, and they document, the parents have been informed, they decided they don't want to be in that class, then we will create a second clustered class. It might not have as many GT kids in it, but it will still give them the opportunity to do that. So,
Okay.
yes, it was explained to all the counselors and everything to clarify that. So I think there was some misunderstanding.
Okay, yeah, across 5 middle schools, I think it just got telephone gamed out and everything started to get executed differently, and so I just want to make sure everybody is kind of understanding the same thing. How is that, and so the GT and the honors for math are going to be on the accelerated curriculum, right? 6th and 7th, 7th, 8th.
Correct.
Algebra. What about science then? Because it used to only be the GT kids
Correct.
on the accelerated science. A couple of middle schools have started to throw some honors kids, so which way are we going on that?
So the intention is to accelerate all of our honors and GT kids to biology in 8th grade. And
Okay.
there's a lot of rationales for this, but one of the biggest ones is the simple fact that we have AP Biology, AP Chemistry, AP Physics 1, AP Physics 2, AP Physics C, AP Environmental Science. We have all these awesome science opportunities, and if we're not getting kids through biology in 8th grade, and we're going to a 7-period day, they're not going to have those opportunities. And so it's really important for us to accelerate. On top of that, we're already accelerating for math, and I don't want to offend anybody who's a biology major or loves biology, but biology's easier than math. And so
Biology is work. Oh, trust me, my daughter
don't tell
loved
anybody.
AP
I was
biology
I was
way
a
more than
physics
chemistry.
major, and we kind of thought biology was science. And so, so anyway, so yeah, we are going to accelerate all of them to that pathway. And the nice thing about it too is, so we're working on the curriculum, and I noted that if you look down below, there's a lot of data that was requested by the board. And one of the things we were talking about was with the curriculum, and this is in our DIP, we are currently working with the National Math and Science Initiative to write an honors curriculum that is truly aligned with the rigor and the content of our AP courses that it leads to. That's going to be good for our GT kids and for our honors kids, and even if they mix like that. So by creating a standard curriculum that way, and then what we're going to do is we're going to work with Region 20, who is our local GT guru, and they're going to come in and they're going to work with each of our curriculum specialists to build in GT supports. That way, that curriculum can serve as dual function. So if it's in the GT class and you've got some honors kids in there, you've got your GT supports built in, but it still has the content that the honor students would need to learn in order to be accelerated to where they need to go.
Now, how is that curriculum plan going to affect 6th grade at Wortham? Because I've got a number of parent friends over there. If all the honors kids are now accelerating, that means you now need a 7th grade math certified teacher at Wortham and a 7th grade science teacher certified at Wortham, because now, or are all honors and GT now going to have to go over to Kitty Hawk? They're not eligible
That's not.
for
the
6th
case.
at Wortham.
Well, that's not the case. The teacher at Wortham is certified through 7th grade, I believe. 8th grade.
Yes, sir.
So she'll be able to tackle that.
Okay,
The GT teacher at Wortham is certified through 8th grade.
with a really old certificate? Oh,
No,
because that's normally,
the kids before 8.
Right.
okay, in all subjects.
Correct.
Okay, that's enough. They don't do the certificate like that anymore. So the new certificates, you have to be math certified, you have to be science certified, they're all separate.
There's a generalist,
There's a general,
generalist 4 through 8.
Okay,
4 through 8.
okay.
But just a point of correction, also the 1 through 8, if you're a lifetime certificate holder.
Yeah, I know.
1 through 8 is, and if she falls into that category, she is certified to teach.
I believe she was lifetime when we looked it up.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, good. Nope, I just want to make sure those parents, I have a couple of GT and honors parents there who just wanted to know what their options were. Some other questions, what sort of efficiencies are we looking at for this year, or for next year? You know, I asked about ACT at the beginning of the school year when we approved that purchase.
Correct.
And only 1 or 2 more kids meeting CCMR out of, taking the ACT. And after having applied for 90 colleges for my daughter, realizing absolutely no one in the entire country wants the ACT at all. is that what's the return on investment? If we're only getting a couple of more kids qualified and colleges are not, they're not even looking for the SAT this year, they might next year, but they're for sure not looking for the ACT. Is that something we need to look at? Because I'm looking for any ways we can save on the budget and save some money. If they're already doing the SAT, do we really need to are we getting our money's worth out of ACT also?
Before Mr. Holmes chimes in, it's my understanding from the kids over at JECA that once you take the ACT, it qualifies you for a number of different scholarship and opportunities that you can put in for just by virtue of having taken the ACT, if I remember correctly, which really opened up a lot of them to be able to get applications in where they didn't have to do them one by one. It just put them into a pool. So before, I think that's a huge advantage for the student.
Yeah, I've applied for 100 scholarships for my daughter too, and there was not one of them that required the ACT and not the SAT. In fact, the SAT was the far preferred one for all of those. So I'm not sure be interesting to hear from the JECA counselor if there's you
Definitely
have
would
to take the ACT if there's 1 or 2 scholarships. But again, we spent how much? $70,000, $80,000? I don't remember.
I don't recall at this exact time, I'm sorry.
It's a bunch of money for everybody to take the ACT, like a lot of money on top of them taking, and it's another day off teaching too. It's another day those kids are out of class and aren't
What is your daughter's
learning.
major interest?
Architecture and engineering.
I will say the rationale behind offering the ACT was really twofold. The first one is that the ACT is a different type of exam than the SAT. It is more content-driven than the SAT, which doesn't necessarily get to as high a level of complexity of content, but it gets to a higher level of complexity of questioning, and that's generally the case. So that was one thing. Some students do better on one than the other, and it was more about giving them the opportunities as they're looking to apply to colleges. Another one is that we have to give the ACT for all of our accelerated students, and we're going to have a lot more of those because we have to have a science score for high school. And if a kid takes biology in 8th grade, they have to take the ACT. That's the only test that currently counts. Now, that doesn't affect the entire general population, but that is another reason for doing that. As far as the CCMR points we're getting off of it, I wouldn't honestly anticipate getting a ton of CCMR points off of ACT because we're trying to capture those kids before they're taking the ACT in November, and they would have already counted, and so the CCMR points are there. I'm just bringing that up. Obviously, we do need to do some more research on that if we really want to answer that question fully, but that's my initial thoughts.
Yeah, you kind of lost me on the science thing because they still take the biology EOC in 8th
Yes,
grade.
that's totally true, but the state requires them to have a science score in high school, and if they took biology in 8th grade, that doesn't count. So then they have to have a different
So every
science.
high school in the state of Texas is giving the ACT?
If they want to
mandatory
count that accountability,
If they take it in 8th grade biology, then.
Yeah, which, I mean, almost every school district has some
Not,
of
not
that.
every, but
Yeah.
if they do, then yes, they would be required to take a science test. Sorry, point of clarification.
and since SAT doesn't have science, it just has math and English, so the
Yeah.
ACT kind of currently has the.
Exactly.
Well,
the
I
corner
mean,
on
you
the
guys
market.
look at that though
Capture.
as optional, because there was a bunch of kids who literally put their head down and sleep through that entire test, and were paying for that test. And so when you give it to everyone, it's, it doesn't mean anything, versus the kids, like, last year, was last year or the year before, that you had to sign up for the SAT, like, seniors had to sign up for it.
Correct.
Well, then the ones who showed up, they wanted to be there, and they did well on it, versus the SAT where we make everybody do it. Well, when you made everybody do the ACT, and nobody knows why that's important.
Right.
Devin,
A
is
lot of
that
kids
part
sleep through it.
of, isn't that part of the SAT day, the ACT day? It's something that we participate in that the state offers to districts.
So SAT and ACT both have state contracts with the state of Texas for reduced rates. I believe it's about $39 this coming year for each test. They keep the price the same. The state also reimburses us for one college readiness test. So that SAT, the first one we take, that's generally the one that gets reimbursed because it comes up first. And so even though we spend the money up front, we get that money back on the SAT as well. So it's not quite as large of an expense. But that is,
But then the ACT is, yeah, another $50,000 out the window. That's another, whole teacher, and if only a couple kids are getting stuff. I'm saying, can we please look into making that voluntary for the ones who want it and think they need it? Because I don't think we're seeing much in the terms of
I would ask that
return
you,
on investment.
I would ask that you give us an opportunity to check with the counselors to see if they feel like it's a needed testing for the students, because if it does open them up to a world of scholarships and opportunities, I would say that it pays for itself for the benefit of the kids.
And Ms. Rodriguez, point of privilege, I'm going to speak first. I obviously support the SAT and ACT. I think our goal is to inspire children, students early to be ready for that exam. There should be no financial barriers to it. Our district is almost in the 75% economically disadvantaged category. This is our commitment. And obviously, as a board member in 2013, I brought this to the agenda to get passed. And so we've been doing it since. And it's something I'm committed to keeping. I think it's done a lot of good for our community and our students.
Well, I think
Miss-
ACT is only second year, right?
No?
ACT?
for,
ACT, yes.
For
but-
ACT,
but-
yes.
But
That's
SAT,
only second year.
but SAT since 2013. Ms. Rodriguez?
Just to clarify, what I'm hearing you say is that we are essentially our hand is being forced by the state to give the ACT test. Not forced, but like highly incentivizing.
Yes.
That we need to, we need it.
Not for every kid,
Right.
but for any kid who took biology in 8th grade,
Yep.
there's no other option for us to get
Right.
that. And if you don't get that, then that kid doesn't count into your high school accountability
Okay.
on that area, so.
Okay. Yeah, so to me, that seems like it's a small price to pay to make sure that we're staying in compliance for that.
And before you go back, Ms. Ryan, Ms. Eaton did have a comment. Ms. Eaton?
And isn't it necessary too for those students that are interested in going in the medical field? If they did the biology in 8th grade, that they do the ACT once they get to high school to help open up potential
I'm not
for
certain on that one.
scholarships in that area?
I know that scholarships are available. I can tell you that I was an ACTer, and I never took the SAT. I took the
Yeah, I
ACT,
did both.
and I can tell you that because I took the ACT and the score I made, I was able to get a full ride to any state college in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
But then I made the brilliant decision to go to a private college. But anyway, but yes, there are certainly scholarship opportunities looking both directions.
I just don't want us to cut off the opportunity for other students to potentially get scholarships to help them in their chosen fields or desires, just because we don't want to pay for the test.
And I think a big sentiment, and this is, I'm probably going to speak to Mr. Macias's words earlier, is the idea is that we want to make sure that every kid, whether or not they think they do or not, has the opportunity to take that test, because they might not be thinking at the time, hey, I want to go to college, or hey, I want to do that, but that might change some of their thoughts on that. So there is that general sentiment that I agree with.
Ms. Ryan?
Yeah, and I'll be, I'm kind of be asking all the departments the same thing is, this is supposed to be the year of efficiencies, right? We're not going to use the bad word cuts. Efficiencies, things that don't have the highest return on investment. So
Yes, ma'am.
when I see all of these, I see lots of additions, and I'm kind of starting to keep an eye open for where the efficiencies are and maybe some things that we could do to free money up for other things that might have a higher return on investment or a cost of living adjustment for teachers and those types of things. Isn't there a change next year or this year for dual credit costs where the state is eating that cost now?
So that's called the FAST program. And so what that program does is for free and reduced lunch students, it would pay the cost of the tuition. Now, here's the weird thing about Alamo colleges. Alamo colleges, we don't technically pay tuition. We do what's called a cost share. And so basically what happens is if the kids come to our school and we teach them with our teacher, they pay the teacher a stipend. If they teach the student over there, we pay $100 a kid for them to go teach it at the dual credit Alamo College.
Okay, because, yeah, I mean, I think, like Mr. Macias was bringing up, it's been brought up many times over the last, 6, 7, 8 years, is really looking at some of our higher cost items, like JECA, like this came up in the strategic planning 5 years ago, which is, why are we not doing early college at Veterans Memorial? When we have dual credit teachers, we've got all these professors who are teaching the exact same classes that are offered at JECA, being taught at Veterans, so why do we need a different campus? Why do we need another principal? Why do we need all these things? Because what it does is it makes it much harder for kids to be well-rounded, They're much harder to do sports and do band and all of those types of things. So, over the next year, it'd be really nice to just do a very hard look at how much JECA is costing us. And just determine the return on investment and just make sure we're not shortchanging the kids at the other 3 campuses, high school campuses, where we could give them even more and offer more things. I think I heard Veterans isn't going to have dual credit biology for some reason next year. Well, that's not fair to the kids at Veterans Memorial. Why aren't they being offered that class when other high schools do have that? Because I want to make sure there is equity, because it's hard for kids to get up to JECA. I mean, you catch a bus early in the morning, and it's hard for them to get back over to do sports or band or anything else. And I'll tell you, that is what colleges are looking for, is not just your early college degree. They are looking for your resume, that you were on student council, that you were in sports, that you were on decathlon, and you were on all these other things. So scholarship-wise and college-wise, it is putting a lot of kids at a disadvantage if they can't have some of that. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some kids who need an early college degree, and those things were created for the right reason.
Well, Ms. Ryan, let me interrupt you. Obviously, JECA students can still play sports. They can be involved in a lot of other things with their home high school, and I've had parents that their kids play football at Judson, or they play soccer at Veterans, or, so I.
Nearly impossible. Like boys soccer starts at 7 a.m. at Veterans, and at 7:30 they have to leave to be at a JECA class.
I'm not saying it's
So
easy, but.
Very challenging for kids.
But the opportunity is there. And one other thing, too, is I've been here where JECA students came and said, don't take JECA away. It really is a unique model that I think has really built a lot of positive community members out of Judson. It's a
I mean,
jewel.
just because it's positive, we should never look at the return on investment of it ever again.
JECA model is
Deserves a
fine.
look, right?
I'm not saying it doesn't, but
Okay.
JECA is not something I would ever support getting rid of. I mean, right now, the model is working, and it's unique. We have district leaders come to JECA because the model is different than having it housed in a high school, and it's different.
I just think it would be interesting for the board to see the cost per pupil.
Oh, it's double.
Compared to a high school.
It's double, and I already know
make that be a conscious decision, that it's costing us probably at least triple, if not quadruple per pupil. Again, that just has to be a conscious decision to do that.
Now,
I would hope that Dr. Toppin would have something to say on this as well, but I would start off by saying, okay, gotcha.
Ms. Rodriguez.
But I know that we didn't go into this in terms of a cost sharing or savings possibility with JECA. We knew that it was going to cost more when we developed the program. And when you say return on investment, if you're saying in terms of performance of the students there, we go to the graduations every year and we announce the numbers of scholarship-related students. And JECA with 100 students is always bigger than Judson, Wagner, or Veterans class of 4, 5, and 6, and 700. In addition, when it comes to not having, I believe there has to be an articulation with a science teacher, right, Devin, to be able to offer a dual credit class? They have to be articulated with the college?
so they have to be an adjunct professor?
Right.
To be able to
So
offer
if
it that
that
way?
person doesn't exist at the campus and we're in the process of trying to get someone to that capacity, and what would be the criteria? Is it a master's degree?
It's 18 hours.
So at
You
least
have to have a
18.
master's degree, but 18 hours in the
So
content
if
area.
there's no one who serves in that capacity, then you can't serve that course at the campus. We have to get someone that meets that. So it's not a matter of not just wanting to do it, it's a matter of being able to recruit the right
No,
person.
for me, it's just an equity thing. We have so many lottery systems that there are kids who are not being offered certain academic opportunities in our schools. So I have an issue with some kids who, from the south side, the north side, that just may not be getting all their opportunities.
Understood.
Ms.
Sorry,
Rodriguez.
Ms. Rodriguez.
I have so many things to say, but I'll try to keep it short. So number one, JECA has come before the board fairly recently, I would say in the last 2 or 3 years. It can't come before the board every year, and that's not what this program review is about. Like, that's not even on his sheet to talk about that. I understand what you're trying to say, Monica, I understand what you're trying to say here, but like, that's not the purpose of what I think we're trying to do here today. The other thing that I want to say is like, we can't say equity means the same thing for every student or the same thing for every school. Equity is about the choices we make, and kids have the choice about where they go to school in this district, anywhere they want to go, and there will be trade-offs. There will be trade-offs about transportation, about extracurriculars, about lots of things, and each family will make the choice that they are going to make. And so, like, I'm like very frustrated by this conversation right now because I feel like we've gone way off course for what the program review is supposed to be.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I thought,
Yeah.
like, JECA's on here, so I thought we were talking about ways to save money on the budget for last year, so.
Well,
I guess
and-
I'm confused on what these are, it's my first one of these, but I also thought JECA and JSTEM were lotteries. so
Your questions are fine. Now, I will say this, though. We have about 30 minutes, and I still want an opportunity to see transportation, maintenance, and facilities. So I wanted to have you just ask one more question if you want. But there's another commitment. If we come back to a third program review, we'll have curriculum and anything else that's not been completed and/or the agenda is still at our disposal for further discussion on these things. So are you okay then, Ms. Ryder, with your item? Ms. Canoyer, yes, please.
Former elementary GT teacher here,
Yes, ma'am.
so coming with that perspective.
I've seen your paperwork.
I have concerns about the combination of the GT teacher and the academic enrichment teacher at the elementary school. I'm not sure that our GT kids are getting what they need in order for them to perform at these higher levels that we're going to be asking them to at middle school and high school when their time with the GT teacher is cut so short. And I want to put that out there for everybody to consider when we're going through and talking about cuts, changes, and that kind of thing. I'm not saying that all our students don't deserve enrichment. That's not my message at all. In many states, GT is considered on the same level as special ed, and students in GT have IEPs. We know that they learn differently. We know that they have different needs. They have different wants. Sometimes that GT teacher on the campus is the one person who makes them want to come to school. And we know that kids don't learn unless they're at school. So this is something I would like to have us in the back of our mind, think about whether we want to continue that model moving forward. And I don't know, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. Do you have any feedback on that for us?
What I will say is this, when I first took the position, the plan from the board was to reduce down to 6 people. I know, but that was, so getting the AET for me was a win. To be able to at least have someone on each campus that could provide services, not have to split 15 billion campuses and try to do something there. But I understand your sentiment about the 20, and I think that that is a conversation that everybody in the room has to have because there are so many competing issues there that you guys have to wrestle with. And but I understand that sentiment. Yeah.
Well, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And
Holmes.
moving on, I want to make sure that we honor those that are here. So if we could have transportation, letter A.
Members of the board, Mr. President, Dr. Fields, I assure you, mine's not going to be near that complicated. Just want to share some things about transportation. Again, my name is Ken Johnson. I don't know all of the board members very well, but I'm the guy out there that's trying to make sure our buses are getting where they need to be. And our purpose and our support what we do in transportation is basically we transport all the students that live without 2 miles from the school, all the special needs students, all the different special programs that we have that require students to go maybe to a different campus. We do all of that. We also provide the maintenance for all the other departments other than the maintenance department, so they can have their vehicles to support the students. So I want to share with you just a few key strategies that we have done. And first one is the purchase of 8 Type A, what we call the MPV buses, multi-purpose vehicles. Those are the 14-passenger buses. They are equipped with wheelchair lifts in them. And the good thing about them is they don't have to have a driver does not have to have a CDL to be able to drive them. We purchased 7 of those with ESSER funds, and we purchased 1 out of special needs funds. The second thing we've done is we've purchased 15 77-passenger buses from the bond 2022 funds, which include the underneath storage as well as the storage inside the vehicle. That was, again, purchased through the bond 22, close to a little over $2 million for those buses. And lastly, or thirdly, we introduced the school bus electric attendant, which allows the students to swipe in and out with a fob, blue key ring, or sticker that's put on the back of the student's ID card. That was purchased through in 2020 when we had to buy a new camera system for the buses. And when we did that, we found a system that was an all-in-one inclusive thing. So we got cameras with live feed, we got GPS, and we also have the ability to have the kids swiping in and out. So where we are today, the results of this, we have 8 buses right now, 8 bus drivers from the special needs side that had their CDL license were moved over to the regular side where we had 8 routes open. An open route means we didn't have a driver to drive them. Then we were able to train the assistants, or the monitors, however you want to call them, to drive the smaller buses. So we actually gained 16 drivers by doing that, and also field routes up there. The additional of the 15 buses with storage will help us a whole lot when it comes not to have to do charter buses anymore, because we're going to be able, kids are going to be able to put their equipment underneath the bus. They can put their backpacks inside the bus. So it could even limit how many buses we do on a trip because we have that extra space and all that in there. So right now, we have 1 bus that came in this last week. They were supposed to come in October, but all the parts and all that kind of stuff going on right now, it takes about 14 months to get a bus right now. So hopefully in the next board meeting, we'll get some more buses. So that's my pitch. Anyway, the last thing is we implemented the fobs, and the fob is simply an attendance. And I want to share something that happened today. An elementary school called me and said, we're missing a student. Must have got on a different bus, the wrong bus. So we got the name of the student. The student was supposed to be on a specific bus, but we had a spare driver on that bus. So he didn't know all the kids, but what he did know was every student swiped in and every student swiped out. So I was able to pull up on my computer that this student swiped out at the stop that she was supposed to get off, and apparently it maybe took a little longer time getting home, but anyway, the parents said, well, maybe call home and she was there, and as far as we know, everything is good. That took me 5 minutes, where in the past, me and everybody else would be out there in the streets with the police department trying to find this student. That's the value of this. In addition to that, when a student swipes in, if the parent gets the app, it will notify them the student got on the bus. It notifies them when they got off the bus. So that's been a big thing for us in doing that. So what are we requesting to continue? Again, our goal is all of these things is also to try to get more drivers. And we're requesting that we do a referral incentive. And that would be this: a bus driver refers somebody to come to transportation. They get hired, and they stay 90 days. The driver that referred them gets $300, and the new person coming in gets $300. So if you look, I put in there, just went out, let's say if we did this for 12 drivers, that would cost the district about $14,400 But what that does, it engages our drivers in recruiting with us. And we all know that word of mouth is the best way of recruitment. So that gets them involved there. And I think our drivers really do like what we're doing there, and they like to tell other people about it, okay? And then the second thing is this, is that summer school used to last to about the third week in July. And we reduced it to now it's just June. And what's happening is that salary that the drivers were used to, they used to work that, they don't have anymore. So now they're looking for jobs right now for summer. Because even though we may be paying them $20 an hour, the amount of hours they used to work is not there. So my suggestion is this, is that we develop a 50 slots of drivers that go from 187 days to 207 days, which covers the summer school. That way they have accountability to be here. Right now, if we hire somebody to do summer school and they decide the second week they want to go on vacation, there's no accountability for them to go on vacation. So this would help us to fill the mission of doing summer school, but it would also be another way of recruiting. We'd be the only district in town that has a 10-month slot for bus drivers. So that's what we want to do. And looking at that, with making the formula there, that would be about $174,480 to do that. We're going to have to pay the drivers anyway, so why not make it a position that we can recruit people from also. For my budget, in 2021-22, we were $1,768,550. In 2022-23, we were $1,952,755. And this year, we were $1,994,221. Do you have any questions for me?
Well, my first question would just simply be, just like I asked the advanced academics, what is the biggest difference between 21, 22 and today in terms of the increase?
The increase is, number one, is parts have gone out of sight. And getting them, and then also the cost of them. And we have an older bus fleet. Buses that are 2,000 year and older, a set of injectors would cost you $7,000 right now versus $3,000 a couple of years ago. And so that's part of it. The other thing is that because we have an older fleet, we can't bring a bus into a stall and tear it down and then figure out, okay, where we're going to get the parts from that. And now we have that stall blocked. So what we do, we outsource a lot of the things that we can't readily know because we don't have the equipment to be able to diagnose that bus well enough. So that's where most of it, a lot of that's coming from.
Are there any other questions from Ms. Stanford? Ms. Faulkner, then Ms. Stanford. Ms. Faulkner.
So on the referral, your calculations are 300 per person. What if I have 10 friends?
You need to make no money.
Okay, so in saying that, then that bumps that number up quite a bit, is I guess what I'm saying.
Well, you only, what we have right now is figured out for 12 drivers.
Okay,
So we would have, if that went really well, the board might want to consider raising up because becomes a really good recruiting.
okay. I just wanted to make sure that
No.
it wasn't just, you can only refer one friend, because if we really want it to work,
Yes, ma'am.
it needs to be unlimited.
Ms. Stanford?
I love the creative thinking, just want to say thank you for that. Does your budget for 23-24 include those numbers above for the referrals and for the 50?
No.
Okay, so we need to add those two figures to that total, okay? And another question was, on those fobs, they sound fantastic, are they easy to lose?
Are they easy to lose? Well,
Do
yes
you
and
find
no.
that-
Most of it right now is, because this is a new thing, is our students are losing them on purpose, let's say, okay?
Oh.
But this is what we do on the elementary, right here. It attaches to their backpack. And all they have to do is push over here, push it over and have to do this. On the middle schools, we've tried what's called a sticker. We put it on the back of their ID cards. What we discovered is the kids like to scrape it off their ID card, and the fact that our schools are not requiring the students to have their ID card. And that's a problem with this here. So, again, this is a new system that we've developed. So we've learned how to put it together. It's a little piece at a time. And so what right now, every student that is registered has been issued a fob or a sticker. So now we've gone out to the parents, we're sharing with the parents what we're doing. We have had nothing but positive from parents calling us. What is it? We explain to us, and they ask us, when can I come get a fob? How can I get one? Once they're educated on that, the next thing we do is want to send out messages. We're having a problem on this particular bus. Need your help with the fobs? And we've just gotten nothing but support from that. Then we're going to go out to the campuses themselves, bus by bus, and work with the kids in the campus about getting their fobs and having their fobs on the buses.
Do the parents have to pay for replacement fobs?
Not at this time.
So we would do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And I'm also curious, where you mentioned that the purchase of additional buses will decrease the number of charter buses it needs.
Okay.
And do you have any idea of the expected savings that will bring?
I know a charter bus sometimes costs something like $1,500, like just to go from a school down to Alamo Dome. So I know that's going to save us a lot by having these other buses like that.
You don't have a rough idea?
I didn't.
Okay.
Ms. Ryan?
Now, the 600, the type A buses, that now is not ESSER because we moved that.
That is correct.
To 2016 interest to 2022.
Correct.
To pay for that, okay. Just want to make sure we're talking about the same buses.
It is.
And then the other 1.5 million in bond 22 for the big buses, we're waiting on that so that not all the
Correct.
buses have the same birthday. Okay. Now feels like we've now created a new category of people called non-CDL bus drivers, right? Because we had CDL bus drivers on there and we've got bus monitors. But now we have bus monitors who are now driving vehicles. Are they getting paid the same amount even though they're now driving? And is that?
They get an extra 50 cents an hour for driving.
Oh, okay. So there's some sort of supplemental on top. Okay. I just wanted to make sure because that's a little more responsible, or it's a lot more responsibility. Don't ask me to drive one of those. But I want to make sure that that was being recognized for what they've agreed to do and step
Yes,
up and be drivers, and that was being reflected in some way. How are we doing on getting all the teachers and coaches driving? I know you talk about it in here, and we talked about this one other time about not just having the athletic coaches, but all the athletic coaches and the band and the UIL guy and the cheerleading girl, whatever, every extracurricular, having them all certified on the buses so that they could drive to their own events. Have we made a lot of progress with that? And is that cutting down on some of the costs?
All the coaches are supposed to have their CDLs across the board.
Yes.
We train
Do they?
all the coaches for that. Do all of them have them? I
No,
know
they all don't have them,
They all
but
don't
have
with
them.
the advent of the new buses, they can drive them with their driver's license. You don't necessarily have to have a CDL. to
Oh,
drive
if
some
they
of the
have a team,
smaller.
like the golf team could pick a
Correct.
15
Or
passenger.
the basketball team.
Okay.
Right. That's why we have the white fleet.
So we just might need to police up the bigger, like the band and the bigger sports teams and,
Right. Well, band, we usually get the bus drivers to help because they're so big and so plentiful. So when we go to another game, they'll have 2 or 3 bus drivers that we've contracted for
Okay.
that particular game, and
okay.
we drive out
Doing
way.
that part, so.
Yes, ma'am.
And decathlon can probably drive themselves. Okay.
Exactly.
Now, okay, so that cuts down on that. I know that was one of the cost-saving things we were trying to do was if they're driving, that's less money that we're putting in the budget, so. Okay, that's all I have.
Are there any other questions before we move on? Thank you, sir.
I just want to say one other thing about the fobs, and then just, I want to make sure that everybody understands, we are not kicking students off the bus because they don't have their fobs. I want to make sure everybody knows that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ramirez?
Yes, sir.
Is he maintenance?
Yes, ma'am.
This is the maintenance program review, yes.
Mr. Ramirez, he is the Director of Maintenance Department.
Good evening, Dr. Fields,
Yes, sir.
board members, and cabinet. The maintenance department consists of our grounds department, our certified trades, such as our plumbers, electricians, welders, carpenters, and painters. And the energy management department, it includes our HVAC, and then we also have our custodians. The maintenance department is responsible for providing a safe, comfortable, clean environment for educators to teach and for our students the opportunity to learn through a variety of our services we provide. So our energy management department and our HVAC department, they purchased equipment and supplies for our heating and air conditioning to our equipment for during our extreme summer that we had in the summer of 2023. And that expenses was about $394,000. And then our energy management department, they're responsible for upgrading our lighting to more efficient LED and our HVAC control system throughout the district. So where we were going to pay $77,000 for these upgrades, or to upgrade to LED, we had a $17,000 rebate check from CPS, and our bill was $59,000. So with the rebates, we're able to save money. In addition, our certified trades, they replaced domestic hot water boilers that go to our kitchens and our showers, athletic facilities. The results to date, some of the repairs that we made were for our replaced compressors were at Millers Point Elementary, Salinas Elementary, and Metzger Middle School. And we replaced our air handler, some parts in the unit at Spring Meadows Elementary. And as I mentioned before, our HVAC and energy management, they upgraded LED lightings at Metzger Middle School, such as the cafeteria and the hallway fixtures. Wagner High School at the stairwell and parking lots. Our child nutrition department in the kitchen, the freezers, and the offices, and the stairways in several district-wide campuses. And for our trades, they replaced the domestic boilers at Wagner High School and Woodlake Hills Middle School. The requested support for our maintenance department is where we are requesting to replace one 20-year-old chiller a year as part of the facilities master plan. And the cost for a chiller is approximately between $350,000 and $500,000. And there you see our budget for maintenance, 2021, 2022, and 2023. And we are requesting additional funding for our custodial supplies and equipment due to price increases and an increased number of schools, school-sponsored events, and students. And you also see our budget, our custodial budget that we had for 2021, 22, 23, and 22, 24.
Thank you. I'll open it up. I have Ms. Faulkner, who's raised her hand.
So what I did notice that, and this is why I'm asking, there's nothing on here about vehicles. Y'all do have a fleet, correct?
Correct, yes, ma'am.
And so there's no maintenance cost or
Yes, there is.
replacement?
Replacement, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We do have that in the budget as well, to replace vehicles.
So it's part of the big number at the bottom?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
That includes contracted services to make the repairs.
okay.
Ms. Eaton?
Hello? Okay. We just picked up 2 new vehicles for your department, right? For
Yes, ma'am.
maintenance
That is
department.
correct.
Those box trucks that we were talking about?
No, ma'am, F-150s.
The F-150.
F-150s.
Oh, okay.
Pickup trucks for for our trades.
Okay, I just remember seeing that in the.
Yes,
thing.
ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
And my question is about efficiency. And we hear a lot that there's sometimes more waste, or that personnel may not be working a full shift. What are you doing in terms of trying to address that in your departments?
Efficiency, I would say what we're trying to do is not regarding our systems is like our LED, upgrading our lighting to LED to help with our utility bills. But as far as employee, you're asking?
Employee or even resources, you buy equipment and all
Resources.
that, and then you have a room, right, a tool room with a bunch of tools in it and all that. Sometimes, again, hearing feedback through the decades,
Yes, sir.
there's more that's there, or, so there's all kinds of stuff there. I'm just trying to figure out what type of controls are you putting in place to ensure that you're being efficient with the purchases you have?
So Judson, we're very fortunate to have, we call it a crib, is a warehouse. And with the items that we tend to use more often, motors like such as that, we keep in stock. So if we have to use them, we have them there for us to use. And we have someone who does inventory once a month on these items and reports on them.
And reports to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? Ms. Eaton?
How are they tagged and, for accountability? Are they tagged for accountability, or how is that managed? I understand the inventory
Yes, ma'am.
part, but,
So I know we have the inventory and they're on shelves and they're still counted. Right now, they're like in, not cubicles, but they're in areas. And once a month, we do inventory on them to make sure that the numbers are correct. Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Ms. Ryan?
HVAC controls are part of the 2022 bond. Is there any way some of that 59,000 can get reclassified out of local funds and over to the 2022 bond money? Because HVAC controls were part of that. Is number 2 on key strategies?
She said it's
No,
part of 20.
bond 2022, HVAC controls were part of that.
And you want to transfer it to?
If we're spending money on HVAC control systems, that should be getting billed to the bond then. Is number 2 key strategy, update HVAC control systems throughout the district. That was bond 2022. So if you can just look into it.
Yes.
Yeah, see if there's a way that it can get classified out of 2022 money versus general funds, that would help us out.
I think it was probably part of Bond 2022, and it's part of what Dr. Gosh is doing. I think he just put it in there as a key strategy to upgrading the HVAC controls, not necessarily they were going to pay for it. The district received $17,000 in rebates. That's for the LED upgrades.
Correct. It just had the local funding, local as being the funding source versus
Understood.
ESSER
Yeah.
business
Yes, ma'am.
bond. So, and who knows, the accountants may have already
Right,
done
or
that.
where the money came
He
from,
may not know.
or where the money
Yeah,
came from.
they move money around on you and don't need to tell you. In terms of, so we're looking at trying to add, 500,000, between 350 to 500,000 each year out of our local funds that we can get on a chiller maintenance plan. Is that the way I'm reading this? Can we take a look about,
The plan is to go forward. We listened to Mr. Macias and the board. We're trying to put together a plan.
life cycle, yeah.
Exactly.
Ms. Eaton knows what I'm
So-
talking about, life cycle management, right?
Exactly. So that would be the plan going forward, not just using extra money left over in a budget to do that. We would have a budgeted plan for doing that. So
Okay.
that's not something we would
And if we have a
recommend.
great year in interest on bond money, we might be able to then reallocate a little bit, but.
Correct.
Okay, we can find different ways. Worst case,
However
we
we
pay for it
can
out of
get-
local
right.
funds, but if we can find some other funding.
But it wouldn't
for it.
be out of their budget going forward.
Okay, great. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know we're getting, oh, sorry, forgive me. Ms. Canoyer, yes, my apologies, Ms. Canoyer.
Thank you.
Yes,
I just
ma'am.
have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we upgraded to LED everywhere now?
No,
Or do
ma'am.
we still have some more to do?
We have some more to do, yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
and so that's part of your plan moving forward, is every year we're doing a little bit?
Yes, ma'am.
Got it.
I would also say, Ms. Canoyer, that when we get those rebates back from CPS, we try and roll those back into the LED process.
Ms. Rodriguez, Ms. Stanford, you guys, we're good. All right, we're close to our, thank you very much. We're close, but I mean, out of respect, I do want to still try to speed through the last two. So if we could be brief, facilities and planning. We don't want you to have to come back for next program review a month from now. Ms. Ryan?
All right, good evening, members of the board, Mr. Chair, Judson ISD. My name is Benjamin Moore. I'm the Executive Director for the Facilities and Planning Department. Our target population for our program review, of course, is our students and our staff. We do that by fulfilling a mission, and our mission is to construct and maintain a secure, positive, and engaging instructional environment with suitable student staff capacity. We have 3 strategies that we will be presenting to the board. The first strategy, of course, is the acceleration and implementation of the Bond 2016 program. Very, very happy seeing a lot of results. We've done that through a variety of different methods. Hiring well works out really good when it comes to accelerating projects. The second strategy that we had to meet our mission is we engaged a demographer to forecast current and future maintenance and facility demands while coordinating directly with the Bond Oversight and Growth and Planning Committee. The third strategy that we implemented is through the Bond 22 program. We basically approached our project model with a fast-track design in mind. In other words, we split up what would be a traditional 100% construction documents from beginning to end. We split it into a 2-phase where we would prioritize our first 5 or 6 priority campuses and include that for a phase 1 fast-track implementation design. And this was specifically geared towards our safety and security items and the gym HVAC, which we also treat it as a security and safety issue also. So we've obviously implemented other types of design or types of fast track methods, but that's one of the core key strategies that we've employed. The results to date, as I hope the board is seeing, the list of projects that we have not started is growing shorter by the day, quite literally. I'm hoping to have at least 2 more bond projects from the 2016 presented to the board for the next board meeting come March. The second results to date is that we continue to meet with the Growth and Planning Committee and the Bond Oversight Committee, bolstered by detailed and quality forecasts and working directly with our demographer. The third result is that we hired Alta Architects to assist us in the implementation of the Bond 22 programs for projects that have multiple locations. It's one thing to have a project and it's all in one spot, but it's also quite another thing to have one project that has 20 plus different locations. So Alta was very key in helping us implement that particular strategy. Of course, as all of us know, we also broke ground this week on our fencing project as we planned way back in October when I first got hired. Still have a job, thank goodness. What we will be requesting in the way of support is we will be asking for support for an online procurement portal where our contractors can submit their bids online. Hopefully taking the entire district in a direction where we are going paperless. The cost for that proposal, in my opinion, is a very modest $20,000. So, and that would be coming out of our local funds. You can kind of see how modest our budget is, but I think that this ask is going to pay for itself, not only for Judson's, but I think we're also going to realize that our contractors are also going to see a cost savings, and I can go on why that is, but I can tell you based on my experience that 2 other school districts When we went to an online submission, it was almost universally accepted and welcomed. That's all I have. I stand ready to answer any of your questions.
Are there any questions? Ms. Knoyer?
If we move to this online portal, do you think it might up the opportunities for other contractors other than the ones we traditionally use to submit? Would that increase the people that are applying for our projects?
I will say this, and I know people don't like to hear this when I talk about other school districts, but we had a similar problem with having vendors respond to our construction projects as Harlandale. When I implemented the online procurement portal, we stopped having bids where we received no bids whatsoever. And that was a pattern before I arrived. I'm not saying that happened because I showed up. The contractors decided that they were going to do business with Harlandale. But I do know that it makes it a heck of a lot easier. And it also opens up the opportunity for a contractor that doesn't normally do business with Harlandale to do so in a very easy manner, very straightforward. That's been my experience.
Thank you very much. I
Thank
think there are
you.
any questions. I appreciate the report.
Thank you.
And we have one final presenter today, child nutrition.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cynthia Sanchez, and I'm the Executive Director for Child Nutrition. I know that all of y'all have had plenty of time to read my program review, so I'm here to answer questions.
That's pretty efficient report. Thank you. Do we have any questions regarding child nutrition? And in your estimation, everything is going well?
Everything is going well. I will just say that we have a TDA required spend down plan, so I will be coming to you in March, as early as March and through next year, to spend down some money.
All right, Ms. Rodriguez? Ms. Rodriguez?
I noticed on here that you have increasing the amount of scratch-cooked meals. Could you highlight a couple of the meals that have you've been
Sure.
successfully able to
So
implement?
we try to do this 2 to 3 times a week. We've done street tacos where we make the chicken from scratch, the side, the rice, the beans, they're charo beans, multiple ingredients inside of those, so that's one day. We've done like a rotini bake where we do our own pasta with the sauce and the meat, and we found that the more that we go to unpackaged items, we've really increased our meals, which has really added to our fund balance. So it's been a positive kind of cycle. Yes, kids are liking food that is made from scratch. And we've also incorporated, I know it's in my program review, but more fresh fruits and vegetables. We're buying seasonal. We're buying what's locally grown. We're trying to source different foods that are locally grown. We just received a grant, which is also going to, it was just a little bit under $1 million, and that has to be spent on very minimally processed foods like milk and produce. So all that will go back into the kids, yes.
Thank you. Ms. Stanford?
I was just curious why the budget actually looks lower from 22-23 to 23-24. That's not used to seeing something like go down.
So there was a Keep the Kids Fed Act that expired June of 2023, and we lost a little bit of funding. We lost about 15 cents on breakfast, and we lost about 40 cents on lunch. So that's why you see a decrease. When we made this budget, it was very conservative, so that doesn't necessarily mean that this is all the money that will come into the budget. As you can see, we've just received right under $1 million, which increases it.
Okay.
And I would just say that not too long ago, a couple of years ago maybe, we were getting a lot of these complaints about expired food and the way food looked, and I've seen less of that feedback coming, so obviously good things have happened in that area, so I just want to kind of acknowledge that.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Ms. Ryan?
Kind of on that same line, you know, you've gotten the students involved now via the SAC. My daughter loves that you are bringing meals. I usually get pictures in the middle of the SAC, and she's like, look what she brought this time, and she's like, this is bomb. So yes, as someone who I don't make lunches, so it's whatever you serve is what my kids are gonna be eating, and they've just been so happy. I mean, literally, it's like night and day what has happened in child nutrition. So, they're so happy. I tell you that all the time. My
You do.
daughter wants to tell me,
You
I'm like,
do.
bring
So
the pizza
thank you for
dippers
that.
back, or yay on the strawberries and watermelon type thing. So yeah, no, I've gotten no complaints from parents about the food. So,
Well, I work
keep
with
it
a
up.
great team, and it takes all of us to get it done.
Yes, yeah, all your people working on all your campuses are doing a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
Well, are there any other questions?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Appreciate it. That being said, thank you for your patience today. We're a little over 8, but it's 8:08, so we now are adjourned at 8:08.